Yeah, we good.
I think we're rolling. Think we're going. Welcome back, everybody. Back with another list this week. Back with shooting guards. After doing the point guards last week, got a little bit of feedback from that. Some negative, some positive, as it usually goes. But we're back this week to do shooting guards. And this list, I will say, I know we said last week's list was pretty hard to curate, but I think this week's list, from top to bottom, had a lot of variation with things that you could do. And
Yeah,
I think that we'll see that here today, wouldn't you say, Jacob?
yeah. This was harder because of the kind of tier of guys and like it's just the variation of guys you kind of got to put in there.
Yeah, I think you're gonna see in this list, you're gonna see a pretty wide gap within like the top echelon of shooting guards that we're gonna have on our list today. And then after that, we'll probably throw several different names at you because there's just so many guys that are in that like decent to good is what I call it, like the tier of that sort of player, where it's a guy that can get you, 20, 25 points on any night. But there are so many of those guys that exist around the league now where I think our list will be very different. We said where I'm like, if I had to put money on it, this is the one that I would put money on, because there's so many guys to choose from.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be a big gap from the top and the bottom.
Yeah. We're not gonna hold y'all any longer. Let's get right into it, man. Jacob, you have your honorable mentions. Let's hear them.
My honorable mentions. I have Anthony Simons and C.J. McCollum.
Okay. I have one of those guys in my
Yeah,
honorable mentions.
I guess like
I
I
will
told.
say, y'all, before you go, this is the one list. I haven't done this in any of my other lists. I have three honorable mentions today, just because I have three people that I would like to talk about. But yeah, go ahead with yours, Jacob.
Yeah, they just guys that I wanted. I really tried to put Anthony Simons kind of on the list. Um, just like I said, it's just kind of the variation of guys, and a lot of the shooting guards have specific roles. A lot of the starting shooting guards have specific roles, so it's kind of just hard to nitpick and see. But those two are what I came up with in my honorable mention.
Yeah. I have CJ McCollum as one of mine as well. CJ McCollum is on my list. But I also have here, I have Devin Vassell and I have Jalen Green.
Okay.
I have both of those two guys. And if you look at all their numbers, they're pretty similar in numbers where they're averaging up around like 20 points. But they're getting them in different ways and they're doing different things despite the scoring on the floor. Where, a guy like CJ, as long as he's been in the league, um, after his MIP campaign, he's been a professional scorer where he's been 20 points per game. In Portland, he's been 20 points per game. In New Orleans, and he was that last season on good efficiency once again. This next season, though, he's playing alongside DeJounte Murray. So we'll have another guy to come in and take some shots. And it's weird to think that CJ McCollum could be like the fourth option on that New Orleans team with
Yeah.
Zion, Brandon Ingram, who's in a lot of trade rumors right now. So we'll see what happens with him. But DeJounte Murray there, too. Having CJ McCollum as like a fourth scoring option, and maybe even Trey Murphy could overtake him. We could see that happen. Um, but I think that bodes well for the Pelicans. I think they'll have a top 10 offense next season because of it. Um, but I have Devin Vassell and Jalen Green here too. I'll touch on Devin Vassell really quick because I have a little more to say about Jalen Green. Devin Vassell is really good. I think Devin Vassell is really good. I think he's the second best player on that Spurs team right now. Was 19 points per game last season, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and he shot the ball well from three. He shot upper 30% from three. And he's just got that two-way ability. He's a long, rangy two. He can
Yeah.
create off the dribble. He can do a lot of things and be that secondary scoring option for Vic, albeit on like a losing rendition of the Spurs team. Whereas on, a winning Spurs team, you would think they'd have a better second option. But for now, Devin Vassell can suffice. He can
Yeah.
suffice in that role, and they can be a decent team next season. Um, but Jalen Green was the toughest guy out of this group for me to rank, and I left him off after having like the best stretch of any player, like post All-Star break for like a month. I think he won Western Conference Player of the Month in March
I think he did. Yeah.
last season. He had a stretch where he had like 5 40-point games, like a span of like 2 weeks. Um, But if you look at his overall numbers, they were actually worse than the season before. And it's kind of a mystery because he had that stretch where he was going off and he was averaging like 30 points a game for a month straight. But I think it, comes with more guys getting touches. You had Sengun getting a lot more touches in the offense. You have Jabari Smith. You have Cam Whitmore, who came in and took touches off the bench. You had Amin Thompson come in and take some minutes away. And I think we'll see next season with like Reed Shepard and more Tari Eason. Jayshawn Tate is still on that team. There are so many players on that Houston Rockets team that demand minutes. I just think we'll see Jalen Green. He won't fall like behind any of those guys, I think, but I don't think that he'll be able to progress very much just because there's so much of a demand for other players to, have their own shine. And also his efficiency. Jalen Green was one of the least efficient scorers in basketball last season throughout the entire year, whereas like his shot quality was like the worst out of anybody. I've never seen anyone take more contested mid-range off the dribble shots than Jalen Green ever in my life. And I watched a lot of Houston Rockets basketball last year. I'll watch a lot this year too because they'll be a really entertaining team. But I think Jalen Green's shot quality has to get better if he wants to become a more efficient player.
I didn't have him on my list. That's kind of like what you said is what I kind of caught.
Really? Not as an honorable mention at all?
I don't know if I kind of just forgot about him or just when I saw him, it just didn't click. But I think he's going to get traded. I know this is like a later discussion, but I think he will get traded eventually.
I can see it.
I think they're going to have to pick a lot of the young guys. They're going to have to pick who they want to build around. But like you said, just the efficiency, and he had a really good stretch last year. I couldn't come to it to kind of put him on there. I
get it. I get it. I just couldn't look past that stretch and like not give him like any type of mention at all. That's just where I'm at. And like I said, I'll be watching so much Rockets this year, like League Pass team. Like they'll be a top 3 League Pass team for me this next season just because of how entertaining they'll be. But yeah, there's so many guys in that team that demand minutes that what can his role really expand to?
Yeah.
Who do you think is the number one option on that team, Jacob? Do you think it's Sengun or Jalen Green?
I think it's Sengun.
You think it's Sengun?
Yeah.
I think so too. At this current state.
I know they're going to have kind of like Denver does, running the offense through Jokic. That's kind of how they're going to end up doing, which we saw it last year. So I don't think Green, like you said, I don't think he'll fade kind of back behind everybody, but he could have a better opportunity somewhere else.
Yeah, I think so. I wanted to talk about him a little bit because he's such an interesting player. He's such a talented player. He's such an athletic player. He's not a great defender. I think he has the tools to be a really good defender, but he just doesn't, dig in on the defensive end. I think Ime Udoka will continue to help with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I've got on Jalen Green, though. Give me your number 10, Jacob. Who you got?
My number 10 is this one. I have Devin Vassell.
Okay.
So it is projecting. It is projecting a little bit, like you said, a great two-way guy. 20 points, almost 4 rebounds, 4 assists. The Spurs aren't going to be competing next year, but when they do, in like maybe 2, maybe 3 more years, he's going to be a big part of it. I think he's going to be the second guy behind Vic unless, some crazy trade happens. But a lot of what you said, just kind of projecting, and I know the gap between him and number 1 is going to be really big, so it's not like how it is with the point guards. But you'll see with this list, it's a lot of projecting and just kind of some guys are going to fall off. I will say I think we will have different lists this time. That's what it seems like already.
For sure. Well, we're starting off with a different list, so that's a great start. But yeah, on Devin Vassell, I really think the Spurs would do their best to keep him in like any trade to try to get a real like second guy for Vic because they need his scoring punch. They need his scoring punch to be even a play-in team at this point. They need what he brings on the offensive and defensive end. And I think he's so versatile. They just paid him too. They just paid him like last offseason.
Yeah,
so
they have him still. I think it's like 145. I think.
Yeah, it was like 5 years, 145. So it'll turn out to be a good contract over time, I think.
Right.
But yeah, it's in their best interest, I think, to keep him around. My number 10, though, this is a guy that I didn't watch a whole lot of last season. I watched him a little more in the second half of the season just because I was interested to see how he would fit. He switched teams last year. He got traded halfway through the season. I have RJ Barrett at number 10 on my list. And I'm projecting a little bit as well. I think in year, technically, full year number 1 with the Toronto Raptors. I guess it's year 2, technically.
Yeah.
I think that he will have an increased role on that team. I don't expect the Toronto Raptors to be a very good team. I don't expect them to, be anything more than like a play-in contender at best. I think a lot of it depends on how good Scotty Barnes will be next season.
Yeah.
But I think RJ Barrett is a good number 2, maybe number 3 option most nights, depending on what Immanuel Quickley shows up as on a night-to-night basis. RJ Barrett last season, the biggest stat with RJ Barrett for the longest time has been his finishing at the rim. And he finally got better. And he got significantly better. He got 10 percentage points better in his finishing at the rim, which I think is a great step forward for RJ Barrett. He shot 50% from the field because of it and shot 36 from 3. I think it's a good mark for RJ Barrett going forward. He only shot a little over 4 attempts from 3. He's not going to be a high volume shooter. He had that one year, 2 or 3 years ago, where he shot 40% from 3. I think all of us kind of knew that it was kind of like a facade, because even in the playoffs that year, the Hawks were leaving him open and letting him shoot jump shots, and he wasn't hitting them in the playoffs. But he was a 20-point per game scorer last season. He has some defensive ability as well, and I think he has really good potential to spread his wings next season in Toronto. I think he'll have the opportunity to. So RJ Barrett's going to be here at my number 10.
Yeah, I kind of feel bad for not having him even on my honorable mention.
I figured you wouldn't.
It's just Toronto, I think, is I know they're going to be bad. And like you said, it's kind of going to see what he can continue to kind of build on what he did last year. Because he did play a lot better in Toronto, I think. Whether it be, not as much pressure like it was in New York. Yeah. I hope RJ Barrett does kind of work out, but
RJ, he's back in Canada, back in the motherland.
Yeah, I wish I would have had him in my honorable mention. If I did a third honorable mention, I'd probably do RJ.
I respect it. Over Jalen Green?
Oof.
That's tough.
I
have RJ my number 10 and Jalen Green's honorable mention for a reason, though.
Yeah. Maybe. Might have to move either CJ or Ant out.
Don't move Ant out. Don't do that.
Yeah.
I can't forgive you for that. Me number 9, though, because – well, I guess I'll go first because this is where I have Anthony Simons. I have Anthony Simons at number 9. Yeah, I couldn't go higher. I tried to, rationalize putting him higher because he has better numbers than a lot of guys who are higher than him on this list. Better counting stats. He averaged 23 points, 4 rebounds, and 6 assists last season, which are really good numbers. He missed a large portion of the season last year with a hand injury. So he missed a lot of considerable time. But he shot 39% from 3 on a little under 9 attempts. He's going to be a volume 3-point shooter. He's going to be a microwave scorer. Potential trade candidate, I will say, for my team. He is up for trade. I think
Orlando Magic.
Team. What?
Orlando Magic.
Well, I've said that for a long time, but they've got KCP now. So it's what do you do? What can you do?
Yeah, that's true.
But I still like that fit for the Magic. I've always liked that fit. He's from Orlando. But yeah, I think Anthony Simons, just with the Blazers kind of honing in on Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe being the center of their rebuild going forward, he's kind of lost in the shuffle right now, where as long as he's on the team, he's going to be a starter and he's going to be a top option on the team. But I don't think that's what the Blazers want going forward. So I think before long we will see him traded. I have a little bit of an emotional attachment to Ant because he's the longest lasting Trailblazer at this point. He's been here since 2018. So I've watched him grow up. I've watched him grow into the player that he is. Last season, going into the season, I said he could average 27 points. And I truly do believe if he hadn't had that hand injury, literally in the first game of the season, he could have done it. But he was a little over 23 points last season. I've got him at number 9, though, just because he'll get his numbers, but it won't equate to winning as long as he's on the Blazers, because the Blazers will be a bad team again next year. But Anthony Simons is a bucket. He's a walking bucket. His playmaking was pretty good last season, even as an off guard next to Scoot Henderson some nights. And I think any contending or partially contending team should look to trade for him if they need a guard.
Yeah, I can agree. I've been a fan of Ant last few years. I know we've been to some of the Memphis Portland games, and he seems to go off a lot of those games.
Some of his best moments in his career have come from those games.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. So I'm a good fan of Ant. So my number 9. I think we've talked about this player before. I don't think he's on here for you.
Okay.
I don't think he's going to be on this list next year unless something changes. But this is where I have Bradley Beal.
Yeah, I was waiting for this. I don't have Bradley Beal anywhere. I don't have him anywhere.
I changed his name. The back half of my 6 through 10, I changed up a lot. Maybe even 5 through 10, I've changed up a lot. But it's kind of what I stuck with Beal. And his numbers aren't bad. He averaged 18 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists. But he shot 51% from the field and 43% from 3. But
he shot 43 from 3?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
On four attempts.
Okay.
So,
still.
But he is the third option in Phoenix. And it kind of sucks that he's getting. It's weird. I'm not gonna say if he'd be better anywhere else, but the diminished role in Phoenix kind of hurts him. I think. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but that contract is really bad, and he's probably going to finish it out in Phoenix more than likely. So he's going to be behind KD and Book unless one of those guys leave, which I don't see happening. Yeah, it's kind of where I settled with them. Just kind of felt right having him on the list at least, but he's not going to be here next year.
You wouldn't think, and he's not on mine at all, kind of for the same reason. I'm kind of projecting him to be like either around the same as last year or maybe even a little bit worse. And that's no knock on Bradley Beal. He's had a really good, really solid career up until this point. But he is getting older. He's third option on that team, like securely the third option on that team behind Book and KD. Whereas when he came in, we were like, I went back and I watched our episode last year, and I was like, we were talking about Bradley Beal being point guard on that team. And he wasn't the point guard last season. It was Devin Booker. He took most of the point guard role on that team. I kind of thought Bradley Beal could really explode as a playmaker last season, and he didn't do that.
Yeah.
He didn't do that. So I didn't see anything last year from Bradley Beal that I hadn't seen before in Washington. And I just wasn't a fan of the fit. I was not as big of a fan of the fit as I thought I would be going into the season, and I'm still not. Phoenix is like handcuffed at this point, in my opinion. I don't think they're a contending team. I just don't think they're a contending team. I think, well, I'm not going to say that. Bradley Beal is better than Tyus Jones. Yeah. I won't say that. Bradley Beal is better than Tyus Jones, but
would you have him on the list if he wasn't like the firm third option? Like if he was a second option somewhere, maybe first. No, I wouldn't even say first. The second option somewhere, would he be higher on your list?
Maybe.
I
don't know for sure. There's too many like specifics that would go into it, because if he was on like a bad team, I don't think I could rationalize even putting him over like a Devin Vassell or an RJ Barrett.
Yeah, because I mean his numbers could go up, but like it's just at this point you really can't really just expect a whole lot more from him. I don't think.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with Bradley Beal. You know, I've liked Bradley Beal throughout his career. This is not me like knocking on Bradley Beal in any way. I don't see great things for him on the Suns. I just don't see it.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at.
Yeah,
you have a number 8.
This player is probably the weirdest on the list.
Okay.
This is where I have Derek White. You got him there?
No, not at all.
You probably got him a lot higher than.
Yeah, I just hate that you have Derek White at 8.
Yeah, like I said, really, if I would have moved him up 2-3 spots, I would have been fine with it. I just couldn't do it. Like I know he averaged 15 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, and that's really not 39%. He shot 39% from 3 on almost 7 attempts.
40.
That's
40
not
if you round up.
40, yeah. And that's not really telling the story of Derek White, because we know what his role is. the best role player in the NBA.
Easily.
So that's why I kind of felt weird having him this low. But I guess it's probably because he's not set in that role, but he just fits so well in it that he doesn't have to do more. Like there's some nights that he could do more, but he's third, maybe fourth option in Boston, maybe even the fifth.
Depends on the night. It really just depends on the night.
I'd say fourth to fifth because he gets hot every he can get hot whenever. But his defense is really probably perimeter wise one of the best. I don't know if I'll say the best, but definitely one of the best.
Mhm.
If you watch this channel, you know Derek White. So it's really not much to describe him. He's just the role player in the NBA, the best. So it just felt weird. It just kind of felt weird having him at 8, but I just couldn't. I don't know. Like I didn't know. I didn't know.
That pains me.
I didn't know if I wanted to take the upside of the guys ahead of him, or he just fits so well in his role. We really don't expect him to do much more but that role because they win games with him in that role.
I won't say where I have him at on my list, but the way I rationalized the spot I chose for Derek White was, would I rather have Derek White on my team than the guy below him?
Okay. So if I would put it like that, if I had that same thought, Derek White would be a lot higher. Almost most of the guys on the list, if you ask me would I rather have them or Derek White, I would probably pick Derek White.
Okay, at least we can agree on that.
Yeah. I'm not a Derek White hater or nothing. Certain times I am, but it's if you ask me, like, I'm gonna save the rest of my list. But if you ask me Derek White above, so would I rather have Derek White or any of the guys above him? I'd pick Derek White for most of those answers. Just the way he fits, and what he brings.
Okay. I mean, I'm glad we have different lists. We've had everybody at a different spot up until this point, so this is great. This is awesome. I'm glad you have him that low, but it still pains me. It still does pain me.
I'll go ahead and say it. I had Tyler Hero at 7. If you ask me who would I rather have, I would take Derek White in a heartbeat. But it's just the upside from Tyler Hero, just kind of not freedom, but he does have. I can't even say he has a bigger role than where he's at. I don't know. The upside of Tyler Hero is just Derek White. We know what he is, just the role player. So I just kind of if I did like you, he'd definitely. I don't know if you have him top 5, but if I did him like you, he would be up there.
Yeah. I'll talk more about Derek White when I do get to him, because I would like to talk about Derek White for a minute. At number 8, though, I flip-flopped my 7 and my 8 whenever I finalized my list. That was the last thing I did. Number 8, though, I have Zach LaVine here. I have Zach LaVine at number 8, and since you already mentioned you had Tyler Hero at number 7, I have Tyler Hero at number 7 also.
Okay.
But yeah, I have Zach LaVine at 8. He only played like 25 games last season, was hurt for most of the season, had underwhelming numbers by his standard. And we've been saying on this channel for a while, and I mean, people have been saying it for, since the Bulls kind of topped out a couple of years ago, whenever like Lonzo Ball got hurt or whatever. Zach LaVine is probably due for a change of scenery. Yeah, I mean, we saw it this offseason with DeMar finally come to be. But yeah, I think it's about time for that to happen with Zach LaVine too. I think I think the experiment in Chicago has run its course. I think with DeMar gone, and as long as Zach LaVine's healthy, I think he'll put up better numbers than he had last season at 20 points, 5 assists, or 5 rebounds and 4 assists.
Yeah.
Zach LaVine still has stuff to give. Like, he's still in his 20s. He still has the athleticism, unless he just comes back from his injury, looking like a different player. Right. I still believe that Zach LaVine can have some really good years ahead of him. I just think he needs to get out of Chicago. I think he needs to get out of Chicago and see what he can do somewhere else at this point.
It's kind of hard to say where he would go just because his contract's big. Do you think the Lakers are still like the main spot for him to go, you think?
I wouldn't like seeing Zach LaVine on the Lakers. I'm not gonna lie.
That was a lot of last year, but
his name was linked at least by a couple people, and I liked it with the Orlando Magic before they signed KCP.
Yeah,
and I would have liked that. I would have liked that for him.
I know he was linked to us for a while, but that was before free agency and as like a last resort. But Yeah, I think it's just a change of scenery. He's still a good player, and I think I told you I tried not to take contracts into this list, which I don't. It's just like the would you rather thing. That's kind of like I don't know because I don't think we've seen him at his peak. We might have seen him at his peak. But if he can continue that, I just don't think it's as bad as a lot of people say he is.
Yeah, I think at this point he's definitely become like an underrated player in the NBA. I
Yeah,
think at this point people have kind of created a narrative, and it's kind of existed around him for a while that he is an empty stats type guy, that he is one of those like shot chucking type players, which he can be some nights, but every shooting guard on this list can be some nights. So I don't think that's only native to Zach LaVine. So I don't think that that's a fair label to put on him. I think that he has become closer to like underrated than overrated
yeah.
on the spectrum of rating players.
And there's probably a lot of players that if they left Chicago, they might just look better. Just seems like they play better, honestly.
Maybe. I mean, it happened with Lauri Markkanen.
Yeah.
But I have Tyler Hero at number 7 too. 21 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. He shot 40% from 3 last season on just under 8 attempts. He had that one game where they made a lot of threes in Boston. I think it was game 2. Tyler Hero was like the best player on the Heat in that game.
He had 30 that night, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he had 30, and he had like 8 or 9 assists, I think, too,
Yeah.
where he was really good playmaking. And that was really cool to see from Tyler Hero last season. He didn't play a whole lot in the regular season either. I think he played like in between 40 and 50 games. He missed a lot of time with injury, too. But Tyler Hero projects to be like a combo guard. He projects to be a guy that can play your point guard if you need him to. And I think next season he's going to be like the X factor for the Miami Heat. I think him and Terry Rozier, hand in hand, that backcourt is going to really determine how good the Miami Heat can be. I'm projecting a little bit of a bounce back year for the Miami Heat. I'll go ahead and say that. I think that they're going to have a good season next year. And I think Tyler Hero is going to have a lot to do with it. You know, he has his nights where he can be a shot chucker and he can be inefficient. But it used to be the case where Tyler Hero, if he wasn't making his shots, he wasn't really giving you anything else on the floor.
Yeah.
Now he's a playmaker. He's a decent defender in Miami, where everybody has to be a decent defender. So, yeah, Tyler Hero is number 7 on this list, and I like him in this spot. I think that he will be a mainstay in this list for years to come. I don't know at what spot he'll be, but I project Tyler Hero to look good again next season, kind of the way he closed this last season.
Yeah, he's a big part of what Miami does or wants to do. I kind of project him to have a bounce back here. I don't know what kind of a bounce back, like how good of a bounce back. But yeah, he that's why I kind of had him at 7. He has gotten better. Everything that kind of, like you said, if he like how they do Duncan Robinson. If Duncan Robinson doesn't make shots, he's not on the floor a lot of times.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's always been the case with him.
Yeah, so they don't have to do that with Tyler Hero at all anymore. So yeah, I think he will definitely be on this list for multiple years. Just kind of where on the list. Yeah.
I think so too. Give me your number 6 first.
It's about Zach LaVine.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, it could just be a change of scenery, just him kind of not having a big role, but just a change of scenery could help. More than likely going to be in Chicago the whole year. I would assume so. I don't know if anybody will trade for him now, especially with how a lot of the teams look, unless there is that surprise team that comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But like you said, he only played 25 games. Do you think he could get back to? Do you think he can get to 25 points a game?
I think he would have to be on a bad team. I think he'd have to be on a bad team and like teetering like first option territory to be 25 points a game again. But I think he'll be at least like 21 or 22.
Yeah. You kind of covered a lot of it with Zach LaVine. Really just a change of scenery or just something different in Chicago. But I don't know if they're just kind of holding the whole team back. And like you said, Lonzo, I think Lonzo might play this year, so that could help him.
He's supposed to.
Yeah. So that definitely could help him. We kind of just got to see because I thought about putting him a little bit lower, but I just kind of expect him to bounce back from last year.
You would think it'd be harder to get worse than it would for him to get better.
Right. Like you said, I think he has become a little bit more underrated than overrated, and it's just a contract. It's what a lot of people look at.
I get that. Yeah, I try to leave contractual value out of all of my assessments of these players, but I get it. I get, and it's part
I
of.
did. I did. I'm just kind of looking at it as like when you're looking at a team, I kind of like, do I want that guy on my team?
By that logic, though, if we're going by that logic, Derek White shouldn't be number 8.
Right, but still, I don't know. I told you, I think the Tobias Harris thing scarred me for a while. That contract, but
Well, you're free of it now, so.
For like another 2 years, maybe.
Don't put that on yourself. Come on now.
Huh?
I said, don't put that on yourself. Come on now. You're free. You're a free man.
For a few years, too. We'll see how the Paul George contract does.
Oh, that is true. Anyways, though, number 6. I debated this spot for a good little while. And I think I finally reached a decision. My 5 and my 6 are very interchangeable. And like I said, I asked myself the question, who would I rather have on my team between these two guys? And if I'm trying to win a championship, I had to put one guy over the other. And it was a tough decision. These two are really 5A and 5B, technically, to me. But since this is a top 10 list and we have to fill out each number, at number 6, this is where I have Desmond Bane.
He's my... I don't know. I already did my 6. Never mind.
He's your 5?
Yeah, he's my 5, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this is where I have Desmond Bane. 24 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists last season. Good numbers, really good numbers, in the absence of Ja Morant.
Right.
I think, obviously with Ja Morant back, those numbers will be a little down, those counting stats. Probably. Desmond Bane shot 38% from 3 on 8.5 attempts. That's a little down from where he has been, but I think a lot of that is due to him drawing the number 1 perimeter defensive assignment every night that he played. He didn't play a whole lot last season either, especially towards the end of the year. He missed some significant time with injury as well. I think Desmond Bane has the chance to be an all-star this year. I think he could be an all-star. I think the Grizzlies would have to be like one of the best teams in the West, the all-star break. But I think Desmond Bane is capable of being an all-star.
Yeah, that had to be top 3 seed, I think, because there are a lot of guards in the West.
Yeah, and we're gonna have to see a full season of him playing the 3. What that really looks like. That's something that I have had my questions about, especially against some of the bigger teams in the West, like the Timberwolves and even the Nuggets, who run Michael Porter Jr. at 3. I don't know how that will go for the Grizzlies defensively, especially projecting to have a rookie at center right now.
Yeah.
So, that's a lot of where my questions lie with their team. But I think Desmond Bane individually, I think he'll have a good season as long as he's healthy. I think he'll be efficient. I think he'll get back to over 40% from 3. So I expect good things from Desmond Bane, and I think if things go really well for the Grizzlies, he could potentially be one of the last guys on an all-star team.
Yeah, that's kind of the reason I had him at 5. Kind of he could be in that all-star like the last few guys in. Just kind of depends on who's hurt or who's having a bad year down year. But yeah, if the Memphis is a top seed, especially like the 1 or 2, which they have, finished as the 1 seed before, or top of the conference, I could definitely see it. Yeah, I think his numbers I think they'll stay the same. I don't think they're dipped too much, even with Ja coming back.
You think he'll average 24 points again?
I had him at 23, but you round up. But yeah, he could be in that 22 to 24 range. Yeah.
Okay.
And that a lot of that is from his shooting. I think he will have a bounce back shooting year, which, like I said, he still had a good shooting year, but by his standards, it was a little bit of a down year. Mm-hmm. I'm just kind of projecting him. He's going to be on that fringe all-star level, I think, next year.
Yeah, I think so too. We could see like 1 or 2 of those Western Conference guards like get hurt, I think
Right,
Desmond Bain
yeah.
could be like one of those replacement guys, maybe.
Yeah.
Who steps in. Anyway, though, number 5, I couldn't rationalize putting Derek White any higher.
If you did,
It was hard to rationalize.
We were gonna have a conversation off camera if you did.
Yeah. As much as I wanted to, it was really hard for me to put him over Desmond Bain. Like, I really went to war for Derek White with my case for putting him above Desmond Bain.
If I did my list like you did, kind of who would I rather have on the team, and I might do my small forwards like that. I might. He'd be a lot higher. Yeah. My list would be a lot higher.
Would you have him over Desmond Bain?
Would I?
Yeah.
Like,
would you rather have him?
When, like, right now, just for what my team has, like Philly has, or just in general?
Just in general. You're a championship contending team, so I guess that applies to Philadelphia. So, sure.
Yeah, I'd say Derek White.
Okay. Respect. I think a lot of people would disagree with that, which I understand. Derek White obviously is not the stat sheet stuffer that Desmond Bain is.
Like I said, numbers isn't what kind of describes Derek White.
Derek White, and I'm about to get really philosophical with my.
Let me relax. Be here for a while.
Yeah, I'm about to get really philosophical with my explanation. We live in a society. We live in a society where we designate value to quantity over quality most of the time. And we see that in the NBA. We see players get big contracts. We see players, get jersey sales. We see players get notoriety. Like, for most of the season, I think if Derek White didn't play for the Celtics, if Derek White still played for, like, the San Antonio Spurs, well, I'm not going to say that. If he played for, like, the Cleveland Cavaliers, for instance, like a good team, a good, like, second-round playoff team, I think if Derek White played for the Cleveland Cavaliers, I think Cam Thomas would be a more popular player than Derek White. I think so.
It would be.
I think so. Anyways, Derek White, I say all that to say his value cannot be quantified in any way. And that hasn't been, like, more true of any player that I've ever watched. I thought, like, JJ Redick was corny last year at first for, like, riding for Derek White the way that he did. But what I watched from Derek White last season, I was like, holy, he is the perfect guy. He is literally the perfect player to put on any team right now. And he raises their ceiling so much. Just by him scrapping, just by him taking assignments, shooting 40% from 3 on 7 attempts. And I think it's crazy that he averaged 15 points a game last year. That's just a testament to how good the Celtics offense was. And I think, he gets a lot of his offense, in the flow of the offense, as everyone does on the Celtics.
I didn't think he averaged that much either till I saw it.
Yeah. But he averaged 5 assists too. He averaged 5 assists, so he was able to play make as well. And that's the thing about Derek White. He can literally do anything. He can literally do a little bit of anything. That's why he was on Team USA. That's why he got minutes on Team USA, because he is just the perfect role player. As you said it, he's the best role player in the NBA. And I think that cannot be quantified by any number, by any contractual money amount. I think he's the most important player outside of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown on that Celtics team. I think he's the most important player in the Eastern Conference when it comes to, like, contending teams. I think he's the most important player to why the Celtics have the edge over every other team right now. I think so.
Yeah, he's one of the bigger reasons, yeah. I agree.
He's the biggest reason. The biggest.
To me, last year, he was more valuable than Jason Tatum some games. But,
yeah. So. Yeah. I agree with you. But yeah, I couldn't put him any higher than 5 just because the top 4 on this list are, like, all NBA caliber guys.
We would have had a talk off camera if you did.
Yeah, I'm not gonna push my agenda that far. And I don't have like a Derek White agenda. I am just like I'm really appreciative of what he
He did.
does. I'm so appreciative of Derek White, the basketball player. Like the NBA is so much better because guys like Derek White still exist.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's like I said, he is the best role player. There's not many guys you can kind of put with him in that conversation. But I think most will agree he is the best role player.
Yeah. And I mean, if someone told me that they would rather have Desmond Bane, I don't blame them at all. I don't blame them at all. Desmond Bane is a better scorer. He's a better overall offensive player. It's just Derek White does everything. He does everything so well.
Yeah, even if it's not a high level, it's just a good enough level to raise the ceiling of it.
Yeah, for sure.
And it does help kind of going to Boston with him like that because, I mean, there was flashes in San Antonio, but not to this level. So it kind of does help with, the play style they wanted, and he kind of not changed his game, but he did come in and they want him to shoot a lot more. So definitely a guy like that, like a role player changing teams, could definitely change perspective on a player like that.
Yeah, his arrival in Boston was definitely beneficial for both him and the team, for sure.
Right. I think we've had more players like that too recently. I think there's kind of role players just going different places and kind of not excelling, but playing a lot better than what they're kind of set in. I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think so
He's
too.
he's just the most notable guy.
He's the prime example. He's
Yeah.
the prime example of that. And we've seen it pay off in a championship now and a U.S. gold medal.
Yeah.
So, anyways, top four. We'll have the same four guys here. I'm interested to see if we have the same order. I kind of figure we will for this top four. You don't know?
I hope so.
Oh, okay. That puts some pressure on me. I'm not worried though. I was pretty tame with my order, I think.
Yeah.
For the top four at least. Who's your number four?
Kyrie Irving.
I have Kyrie at 4 too.
Yeah. He averaged about 26, 5 and 5 last year. Shot almost 50% on 19 and a half attempts. And 41% from 3 on 7 attempts. I'm not gonna say it's not weird to watch Kyrie play, but it's weird to watch him play. Like he's a shooting guard now.
Yeah.
And we've always watched him as a point guard. I think I had him on my point guard list last year. And it's just kind of weird to see him kind of not get fed the ball because he still can create his own shot. Probably one of the best in the league at doing so. I guess just having Luka beside him just kind of it doesn't make you think like that anymore, or not just like the average fan. But yeah, he's still a top guard in the league, at least shooting guard. You had him top 5 last year, didn't you?
I had him at number 5 on my shooting guard list last year. I know you had him as a point guard. I think you had him at number 5 in your point guards though, so he was top 5 for each of us.
Yeah, I think he was. Kind of, I'll say you know what he is, but he is the second guy in Dallas, and really, I'm not gonna say could be the first guy on some nights, but on another team, definitely could still be the first guy.
Yeah.
But the go-to guy, but he's still his game-winning shots. When Lucas has an off night, or they wear him down like they normally do, he has Kyrie to rely on, and he's probably one of the second best options to kind of do so.
Yeah, for sure, for certain. I've got Kyrie at number 4 too. 26, 5 and 5 last year. It was a 50, 40, 90 guy. Love that for Kyrie.
I didn't have free throw numbers, so I couldn't say that.
Yeah, he was 50, 40, 90. And I went into last season, and there's evidence of it on this channel, saying that there was no one I was more interested to watch in the NBA last season than Kyrie Irving. Partially because of how high I was on the Dallas Mavericks going into last season, and also because of how bad they ended the season before, which made little to no sense to me.
They tanked.
Yeah, basically. Got Derek Lively because of it. But yeah, Kyrie was so interesting to watch all of last season because we saw him be like at his best still alongside one of the best players in the NBA. And that's what propelled the Mavericks for a big portion of the playoffs to get to the finals because Kyrie was so good some nights. And there were other nights in the playoffs, especially towards the end, where he wasn't as good. He was definitely kind of on and off towards like the Western Conference Finals, and especially in that final series. I mean, even early on in the playoffs, like he would hold off in the first half where he'd only have like 2 points on like 2 or 3 shots. And then in the second half, he'd explode for like 20, 25 points.
Right.
But Kyrie was so good. He was so efficient all year. And it's so, so cool to see him excel in that second star role. Because I think in Brooklyn, it just didn't work out that way. And I don't want to say it's like a coaching thing. I just think Luka Doncic is the most like Luka Doncic and Jokic are the best 2 superstars to play with. Would you agree?
Yeah, I'd agree.
Because they elevate the play of everyone else around them. And Kyrie Irving is already such a great player that him elevated by somebody else only makes him like an all NBA caliber player. And that's what we saw last season from Kyrie. Right. We're past all of the him missing games thing at this point, thankfully. So we don't have to worry about that discourse anymore. So that's kind of behind him. And I think he's put a lot of that to bed, and he can finally just play basketball now. And I think that's what a lot of last season was.
I think he kind of found a home in Dallas, kind of doesn't really have to deal with a lot of the drama he has the last few stops.
Yeah, I think so too.
He's just hooping. So
he's just hooping, and that's all he wants to do. That's all he wants to go out there and do. And he was able to do that at the highest level last season. His game winner last season against the Nuggets is like the best game winner I've ever seen. The left-hand floater from like above the free throw line over Jokic. That was insane to watch. Insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kyrie's at number 4. A great season for him last year. I don't expect to be as high on the Mavericks as I was last year, but I still expect Kyrie to have a really solid, really good season next year. He's 31, 32 years old at this point, but he still is just as good athletically as he has been in the past.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Who's your number 3?
At number 3, I have Donovan Mitchell here at number 3. I expect you do too.
Yep.
Yeah. Donovan Mitchell, 27 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. Shot 37% from 3 on 9 attempts last year. We know the Cavs got to the second round. Donovan Mitchell was huge in that first round series, beating Orlando. As Darius Garland did not have a very good series at all. Right. Evan Mobley was kind of on and off offensively. It was really Karis LeVert who was big in a lot of those games for the Cavs to lead them over the Magic. But Donovan Mitchell was the superstar. He was the guy taking the shots down the stretch, hitting some big clutch shots. And then second round, the game that they won against the Celtics, Donovan Mitchell had a really, really good game. I don't remember the point total.
I think it was over 30, but he had a really good first half. I want to say he was close to 20 in the first half.
Yeah. Donovan Mitchell is such a weird player, though. He's such a weird player to rank because he's so good.
He got extended, didn't he?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I said the whole Donovan Mitchell to New York thing for the longest time, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen at this point with the Nova boys being there. But yeah, he's such a weird player to rank because talent-wise, like you could put him top 2 if you wanted to put him top 2 talent-wise. You could put him over the 2 guys we had above him right now. Or right now, at least. Maybe not going forward. But right now, you could do it, and you could rationalize it because he's a guy who's consistently going to be the best player on a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference for at least this next season, you would think.
Yeah.
It's just my thing with him is he's just a 6'1" shooting guard. So his defensive ability is kind of tainted, and especially in that backcourt with Darius Garland, who had a really rough year last year. Darius Garland had a really rough year. He had that jaw injury that really kind of set him back last year, so that was a big part of it. But when Darius Garland is going well, it seems like Donovan Mitchell is going really well too. And they kind of feed off of each other's energy, especially offensively.
Right.
And they've got those guys in the paint. They've got Mobley and Allen who, hold things down defensively. But Donovan Mitchell, at his best, is he was an All-NBA second-team player, not this past season, but the year before.
Yeah.
At his best, I think that's what he is. So you could rationalize putting him at number 2, and I even gave it some thought for a second, just because the guy who I have at number 2, I think the Cavs will be better than the team that he's on. next season. But yeah, Donovan Mitchell. My drawbacks with Donovan Mitchell are just a little stronger than the guy that I have at number 2. But Donovan Mitchell, with all that being said, he's still. I think he's in the prime of his career.
Yeah.
I think he's playing his best basketball right now, and it's equating to a lot of winning.
Yeah, and I don't think his defense is that bad, but like you said, it's just being 6'1".
There's not much he can do.
Right. I mean, I think for his size, he does really well, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think
he averaged almost 2 steals, which I know that's not really telling everything, but he does kind of get targeted by like the Tatums, the Jimmy Butlers, the bigger wings. He does get targeted by them.
Yeah. I hate to throw like a hypothetical into it too, but Devin Booker's your number 2, right?
Yeah.
If you switch Devin Booker and Donovan Mitchell, you put Devin Booker on the Cavs, you put Donovan Mitchell on the Suns, you put Yusuf Nurkic behind Donovan Mitchell defensively, and you put Mobley and Allen behind Devin Booker. I think Devin Booker looks like a significantly better defensive player than he probably is. And I think Donovan Mitchell looks like a little bit worse of a defensive player that we view him as right now.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I hate to throw the hypothetical in there, but I did give that some thought. And I think the Cavs would be a better team with Devin Booker than they are with Donovan Mitchell. And I think the Suns would be a worse team with Donovan Mitchell. Think about Donovan Mitchell and Bradley Beal in the backcourt together. That just doesn't sound appetizing to me.
How tall is D-Book? 6'5"?
Devin Booker's like 6'5", 6'6", yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I can kind of get on board with that. If trying to think of a player, let's say like Donovan Mitchell went to Orlando and he's with Jalen Suggs, would you kind of still feel that way a little bit? But it's kind of the same hypothetical that you're saying. Yeah. So I see what you're saying, switching Book and Mitchell. First off, if Nurkic is the center, everybody's gonna look bad on defense.
Yeah.
And he's in the lab apparently. But yeah, I see what you're saying, and I kind of back that, but
well, I say that only to say Donovan Mitchell requires a specialized set of teammates.
At least somebody like Evan Mobley, somebody that can kind of guard the rim, because he was with Rudy for however many years it was. So yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
you have to have players alongside Donovan Mitchell who can make up for what he lacks physically.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
That's more so of what I'm trying to say, I guess.
Yeah.
And I've made that remark before on this channel. So
yeah,
that still exists, and I think it kind of I think the Cavs also are just not as complete of a team as the other teams at the top of the East. Like, you think about the Cavs, second round Eastern Conference team. It's hard for me to imagine the Cavs getting to the Eastern Conference Finals at this current state. I think they could do it. They could do it. I mean, the Indiana Pacers did it.
Yeah,
so I think the Cavs could do it if the Pacers did it. But it's hard for me to imagine, especially going into this next season. Like I said, they'd be a top 4 seed. I kind of hesitant about that, actually, now thinking about it. I think they'll have regular season wins, and I'd like to think they'll be a top 4 seed. I need Darius Garland to have a shake back here, kind of for that to happen, and I think in turn that will make Donovan Mitchell better also.
Yeah, I haven't thought much of standings, but yeah, I see what you're saying about the hypothetical. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Devin, getting into my number 2, one of my favorite players in the league, Devin Booker, 27 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists. He was the playmaking guy on the Suns last season. For the first half of the season, he averaged 9 assists. He averaged 9 assists.
That was when Bill was missed time, wasn't it? Was the first half?
Yeah, he missed most of his time in the first half of the season. Devin Booker was at 9 assists a game. He was among the leaders in the NBA, which was really cool for me to see. His numbers pretty on par with what he has shot in his career, efficiency-wise. He had a really good Olympics. Devin Booker, I tried to make a case for him at number 1, and I think the Olympics, could make a case that you could potentially still have him at number 1 at this current time. Also, though, on the other hand, I did say some things back in April that I want Troy back on.
Yeah.
So I took that into account as well. I
That,
said some things back in April
that was on my
after a
mind.
certain 4-0 series happened in Phoenix, Arizona, between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Phoenix Suns. So I will stick with what I said then. I think that Devin Booker has been surpassed as the number one shooting guard at this point. He's still number one in my heart. I'll still ride for Devin Booker like he is number one. And I think that he'll have another good statistical season next year. I just don't know about the Suns. I don't know how good the Suns will be. I don't know if the Suns will be – I don't know if they can be a top 4 or 5 seed in the West. The West is just loaded. It's loaded, and the Suns are not like – they're not in that top echelon at all to me.
Yeah. When I'm making my list, I remember what you said in April, and I was like, I wonder if he changes it now.
I thought about it. I
took a screenshot of it way back in April because I thought it was funny. But yeah, kind of the same reasons. You can make case for one, and I mean I don't think anybody would complain about it. The playmaking, I didn't know he was 7 assists. I knew it was 9 kind of the first half. I knew it dipped a little bit with Bradley Beal coming back. Do you think with Tyus Jones now, his playmaking will take another not a dip, but I know they're going to come back some. But will he be more in the off ball role like he was when Chris Paul was there? Or kind of depends.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much Tyus Jones. I don't know what his minutes will look like. I mean, I expect him to be like between 20 and 25 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Especially to start the season.
I think either way we could have Book's going to be 2. I don't think anybody would affect his numbers or anything. But just the playmaking aspect of it, do you think he could get better again?
He took a pretty significant jump last year to me.
Yeah.
So I think if he did take another jump, it would be kind of subtle. I don't think we would see it equated in the numbers.
Okay. Just better decision making and just kind of setting up where they need to be set up at.
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of that will coincide with his connection with Nurkic. I think that's a way that he could get better running like the pick and roll better with Nurkic than he did last year.
Yeah, I can agree.
Yeah.
There's another center out west they can go get back if they want to. Team might be trading them.
Why am I blanking?
DeAndre Ayton.
Oh.
Might be on the trade block. Go back and get him.
Hey, the same people that were there before are not the same people that are there now, except for like the owners who did trade him.
Did you see
the manager who did trade him? So I guess that's kind of invalid.
This is off topic, but did you see Nasir Little's getting paid until 2031?
Yeah, shout out to Nas. Not for getting cut, obviously. I hate to see that. I feel like he'll be on another NBA team.
He will
going into the season. I feel like he's not that bad. But yeah, shout out to Nas for at least getting paid for getting his money. I liked Nas in Portland. I don't want Nas back in Portland now, just because of the depth at the wing position. So many young wings on the team now. So I don't want Nas to come in and kind of convolute that. But I think on a team like Brooklyn, maybe, or on a team like Washington or Charlotte, give him a chance.
Of a rebuild team.
Yeah, why not? Number one, though, we know who number one is, Jacob. You can talk about number one.
That's why I have Anthony.
Talk about number
one. I didn't know he played 79 games last year. It kind of felt like less to me, which I kind of had a stretch where I didn't watch a lot of Minnesota. Just kind of knew what they were a little bit. But he averaged 26 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and shot 46 from the field on almost 20 attempts. We kind of know what he is. The playoffs kind of, like you said, that Phoenix series was just something else to watch. And even parts of the Denver series was just I think I had Denver and Minnesota when I think I flipped it either.
Yeah, you flipped like after like game 1 or game 2.
Game 2, I think I had Denver, and then after game 2 it was like Minnesota, and then But we kind of know what Ant is, and I don't know how much of a bigger leap he can take because we saw what he was last year. I mean, he's this high on our list. It's just kind of, I don't know how to explain it, but I just know he's going to take another leap. We might not see it in stats, but just from them having Cat there, is this year Cat I don't think this year Cat gets traded. Never mind.
No.
I was gonna say the way they played last year, I think they're gonna settle on their team.
I think so too.
Yeah, the projection for Ant, I just think he's gonna get better. Like I said, it might not show in the numbers, but he's great defensively in my opinion. It's fun to watch. Just we saw it in the Olympics when he did play, but not the Olympics, but the qualifier matches, I think. So yeah, I didn't think you'd have him win. I was kind of hoping you did, but I think he's at one. A lot of that is in the playoffs, which he showed in the regular season, but just the playoffs how he took over.
Yeah. I couldn't rationalize putting him at number 2 going into this year after what he did to the Suns. He took that series over. Like from game 1, it was like so bleak for the Suns after that first game. It was just over at that point. And that gave them momentum to go into the second round and beat the Nuggets, which I didn't think was a possible feat for them. And from the jump in that series, he had like 37 points in game 1 of that series. And they took that series, the distance, but they won it in a big game 7 in Denver, which I thought was so crazy for them to do.
He was the first pick, right, when he got drafted?
Yeah, he was the number 1 pick.
I saw a podcast, and Minnesota was trying to trade that pick. Up until draft night, they were trying to trade that pick. I think they tried to trade back with Golden State.
Imagine.
I saw that.
They probably knew Golden State was set on Wiseman.
I think they did. I looked at that draft, and I think it was a redraft podcast, and I kind of looked at it, and I was like, the way this draft would have turned out if that happened.
Man, imagine that. But yeah, I couldn't rationalize putting Ant lower than 1. He's the best shooting guard right now, and I think he'll have the best shooting guard season next year. I think he'll have a better season next year than he did last year.
Yeah, I would say even if it flips and Devin Booker goes back to 1, I don't think anybody would be surprised or really complain about it. I think they are the 1 and 2 for the foreseeable future, I think.
Yeah, because most of the guys at the top of this list are older guys at this point, or at least guys that are already in the prime of their career. Right. You don't see any guy at the bottom right now who's like young who could reach that point. Like you don't see Jalen Green or Devin Vassell or Tyler Hero, getting to that level.
Yeah. I think the top 3 are set for like the next 3-4 years, unless somebody just comes in and just changes that out of nowhere.
Yeah. The career trajectory of Desmond Bane wouldn't say so, but just like thinking about age range, he's like the only guy that I think could enter like that top 3 territory if someone was to like fall. If like Kyrie were to fall to age or Donovan Mitchell were to fall to age, because obviously Ant won't, and I don't think Booker will either for a couple of years at least.
Yeah, I say Bane probably would be one of the next guys. Like I said, unless somebody just came out of nowhere, because Bane is a little bit older, but I don't think he's too old.
No, I mean he was an old like drafted player. He was an older player in the draft.
Yeah,
but yeah, I don't think so either. But yeah, I think Anthony Edwards projects to be the best shooting guard in the NBA next season. The Timberwolves project to be one of the best teams in the Western Conference next season again. So I couldn't rationalize putting him lower than 1. He's number 1. He is. Yeah. As much as it pains me to say, he's number 1.
Yeah, they're going to be.
That's not me hating on Ant. That's just wish it was Book. I wish it was still Book at 1.
Yeah, they're going to be another league pass team next year, especially because of Ant. And I already got league pass purchase, so.
And Rob Dillingham. Don't forget about Rob Dillingham.
I keep forgetting they traded up for him because that trade kind of was out of nowhere. Yeah.
Crazy that they'll have Rob Dillingham.
They're definitely going to be a team to watch next year.
For sure, for certain. Yeah, man, that's top 10 shooting guards though. That's top 10 shooting guards. We'll have small forwards next. This was a good list. I liked our variation. I liked that we were able to mention a lot of different guys, had a lot of different guys at different spots. Did not like that you had Derek White at 8. I won't like that. He'll take it personal though.
Keep on. I'll have Tatum extra low next episode.
Well, that won't bother me. That will bother somebody else we know though. Anyways, thank y'all for watching once again. We'll be back hopefully next week again to do small forwards. Yeah. Getting into the deep part of the off season. Not very much news circulating right now at all. So we're in the dead part of the off season. But these lists are keeping it fresh for us. So we're gonna keep putting them out.
Yeah, I was thinking there hadn't been any news like in a while.
Not at all, except for
Um,
like Nas Little and EJ Liddell getting cut by the Suns. That's like
I
the
think
only news.
when's training camp? Is that
Training camp is until like the end of September for most teams, or like
beginning of October?
yeah.
Well, the season starts what, October like 25th or something?
It was October 22nd or 3rd.
Yeah, I want to say the schedule has released. I know that.
The schedule did release. That's like the biggest news.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, we're in the dead time. So it's list time for us right now. There's no foreseeable news on the horizon. Not even any trade rumors though, which is the weird part, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen any at all, which is kind of weird.
Nothing circulating at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. One of those fake Twitter accounts will say something in a couple weeks and start something.
Probably. Anyway, though, we'll sign off for now. Jacob, you got anything else you would like to add?
That's all I got.
Let's do it. We'll see y'all hopefully next week with small forwards. That's sure to be an interesting list as well. Thank y'all for watching, and peace out.